Hey folks, boy, a beautiful 60 some degree day here. So I just kind of wanted to show you kind of quickly, take a little tour around here, what I've been up to here today. Well, first of all, here's what I started out doing this morning. Yeah, so this is my my own design, and it's going to be a 18-foot, 8-foot beam cat catch sailboat. The whole idea is to have something lightweight, something that's really light but yet roomy, easy to sail, and something we can pull with our CRV. Enough about that though. Here's what I wanted to show you. This old raised bed, these are the old ones that we used to build just using regular off-the-rack 2x4s. And as you can see here, some of them are starting to be reclaimed by nature. So that one I'm moving in here. It's going to be put in here, and I'll show you when I'm done here. But I want to kind of show you the process of setting up these raised beds. But that one's going in this hoop house. And then there's this one, you know, and you can see how that's starting to decompose. And if I was to leave this outside, I'd have to knock off that cap piece and replace it. Not a big deal, but I'd just soon put it under cover and then not even worry about it anymore. So that one I think is going to go over here where all this junk is, and we already installed this one in a couple weeks ago. That's the one that was behind on the south side of the garage, that's pretty shaded in the afternoons. And that one we brought the soil that had been in it into it and filled it with leaves. I just checked this morning. Lots of adult worms, but I didn't see the babies in that one. Speaking of babies, here's our little red rangers. They're a little bigger than they were last time I showed you. So this is another of the virtues of raised beds. This is where those 2x4 ones were an hour ago, and we got about a 3/8 of an inch of rain, and so the soil was moist enough to kind of hold together. So I just stood inside of them, lifted them up, and walked them over to the hoop houses. And then I brought my new ones that I'd made with the cedar, the ones that I showed you a couple weeks ago how to make. We had 2 of them left, so I put those, I just kind of corralled the potting mix, those lobes of potting mix that stayed mostly intact, with these new cedar raised beds. So up here, this is my soil sifter, my trommel. And if you happen to see a video I did last summer on it, we're going to fire this thing up. And this is all old topsoil that was scraped up here a couple years ago, and we're going to sift it using this contraption. And this is what we're going to fill the raised beds that are going in the hoop house. So I got my work cut out for me. Kind of warm in here. What I did is I moved this first raised bed in here, and I just plopped it down here about a foot out from the wall. We'll probably do more peppers in here. We have some wire up here we can trellis if we want to. I'll probably do the tomatoes in the center one, and we could trellis those from the purlin. But we had some 4-inch cement blocks. I just put them along the edge here between there because the quack grass is relentless. It just keeps coming back in here. And we don't use any glyphosate, no herbicides on this property. So I have to kind of come up with creative ways to keep the quack grass out of here. I came in here with a little torch last week and tried to kind of burn it a little bit just with a little handheld propane torch. But torches and hoop houses aren't great go-togethers. I got a little nervous there. And the other thing is bone dry wood chips. Probably doesn't help either. I just like a campfire in here. I had a watering can. Anyways. So what I did is I cut, there's a landscape fabric underneath all of these wood chips. So they've been there for like 9 years. So I used just an old serrated knife that I keep in the garage. I cut the fabric out, but what's underneath here is just rock hard. It's really hard, compacted soil. And so what I'm going to do is loosen all that up, turn it up with the digging fork, and I don't expect to see an earthworm in here. There's no reason they would be in here. There's nothing for them to eat, but we need them. Our method of gardening, we need them. So we're going to encourage them. So I'm going to loosen this soil so they have a place to go in the wintertime. When it's time for them to get down below the frost line, or whatever it is they do in the winter, they can do it. And then the soil that we bring in here, what we're going to sift out, we're going to augment that with some soil from our other raised beds that are just teeming with those little baby earthworms. So we're going to kind of inoculate the raised beds. So I'll do that with this one, and then I'll do the same thing in the other one, and then we'll get sifting and hauling soil. I got the beds worked. I got that soil worked. I'll walk over to the next hoop house here. This is the second one that I installed, and I put this one in the center. I'm going to have earth boxes, self-watering planters, bottom watering planters along here that'll be fed by the rain barrels once we get them up. And then I worked this soil with the digging fork, and you know, I think most folks would be tickled to death to have soil like this right off the bat to plant in. This actually had been old garden beds back in our rototilling days, before we built the hoop houses. But not anymore. So our next task, I'm not going to be sifting soil today. It's getting too late. But our task is going to be to create in these raised beds a living soil. Oof. You know, those who think that they need a higher raised bed so they don't have to bend over when they're gardening, really need to do this first. I'll show you what I've been doing here. This is after two wheelbarrow loads, and then I switched to the garden cart because I can haul more, much more efficiently. So I'll empty the garden cart and I'll see where we're at with this. If that's gonna have to be enough, or maybe one more, we'll see. So I showed this last year when I built this thing. This is our soil sifter, our trommel that I built. I'll take you around, show you a close-up of the mechanism, how I did this. But this is where everything's coming from that I'm filling those two new raised beds with. So this is all this stockpiled material. So it's just a fairly quick process of sifting out all of the sticks and rocks and roots and debris. I've done about 4 cartloads hauled down there, and out of all of those, I think I found a dozen earthworms. And those I picked up mostly out around the edges here, the bottoms of the pile here where leaves are blowing in and they had something to eat. But for the most part, what I'm sifting here is the finished product, not the ongoing process. Now this is the product of decomposition. This is after the decomposers have pretty much eaten everything to create this topsoil, and that's not what we want to grow in anymore. It's what we used to grow in. Now we want to grow in the ongoing process. I'm getting close to a load to bring down to start filling that other raised bed. Now this is, you know, what people would call screened topsoil. That's kind of the high-end stuff that folks pay quite a bit for. So the way we make it, this is our trommel. It runs at about 4 RPMs. There's actually a 2-speed. I put a switch up there so it runs at both. It runs at a lower speed if I'm sifting compost out of the composters and I want to screen that. I use the slow speed, works a lot better for that. It lets it stay in there longer. So I just put it up on blocks so that it's at a good slope. And so everything that falls, that doesn't go through the screen, then falls out here. So we have quite a pile of rocks and roots and plant debris. Now this, if you'll recall, is our windshield wiper motor, a front bicycle hub. On one side where I took the pedal off, I added a alternator pulley, and then this is a serpentine belt that just uses one of the bicycle rims as a giant pulley, and then on the ends the other rims are kept in place by just some casters, one on the top and 2 on the bottom. And then on the windshield wiper shaft, I stuck a little kid's bike rear sprocket. And then that goes on, use a chain to, goes on the big sprocket. Well, I'm woofed. I figure I hauled, let's see, if the soil is filled, if the beds are filled to the top of the metal, that's about 1,600 pounds per bed. It's about 0.8 of a cubic yard. So they're not completely filled. The other one looks about like this one, but that's full enough, because I'm going to really add chopped leaves to these this summer. And there's really nothing in here now. This is an end result. This is a nice, rich, dark topsoil, but it's the end result of lots of decomposition of plant material by the decomposers. And now there's really nothing in it. They've all done their job. They've created a rich soil, and there's nothing being added that feeds them. So the bacteria and fungi that are in here are pretty well dormant right now, not really doing much. But we're going to change that, because we're going to harvest worms from our other raised beds and inoculate these with those. So it's kind of like reintroducing a species. You know? So that's for tomorrow. I think rather than keep going on with this one, I'll do like this is kind of a part 1, and then I'll do a part 2 that'll kind of show how we finish up installing raised beds, especially ones inside a hoop house. We've never done that before. But how we go about adding earthworms, adding chopped leaves, getting them happy, keeping them watered, all of that.